This happened just a few weeks ago when I moved to this quiet suburban area. I'm 32 and wanted a fresh start after finishing my graduate studies. I've worked as a graphic designer from home for a while now, and honestly, I enjoyed the peace and solitude of my new place. The neighborhood seemed perfect at first glance. The houses were all built in the late 90s, and the leaves were falling, creating a cozy autumn vibe. I've never stopped thinking about that night. I ordered takeout my first evening, feeling excited. I sat waiting at my door, tapping my foot. It finally arrived. I went to greet the delivery person, but I was taken aback. Instead of the usual cheerful face, there was a figure standing there, wearing a dark hoodie. I couldn't see the person's face clearly. They just stood there, staring at me. I felt a chill run down my spine. Then, without a word, they turned and walked away, fading into the shadows. My heart was racing as I took my food and quickly shut the door. The next night, I was still nervous, but thought maybe it was just a weird coincidence. I ordered again, hoping it would distract me. When the food arrived, I found it left neatly on my doorstep, but no delivery person in sight. I picked it up, puzzled. This time it contained strange items I hadn't ordered, some sort of fish stew and a dessert that looked homemade. I felt uneasy but took it inside, unsure of what to think. By the third night, I was caught between curiosity and fear. Again, my order arrived without anyone bringing it. I wondered if I should just stop ordering takeout completely. But then I noticed a tiny doll made of dried leaves sitting in the box. It was odd, and I didn't recall asking for it. I felt a stirring in my gut, like a warning. I decided to investigate. Maybe my neighbors knew something. There were whispers I overheard, talks about missing pets and unusual gatherings that I hadn't seen. One evening, I watched from my window, trying to catch a glimpse. I saw Mrs. Ellis next door, staring off into the distance, her eyes wide. She looked frightened, or maybe just wary. I wasn't sure. Walking outside one day, I mustered the courage to approach her. I asked about the deliveries, but her eyes darted away, and she mumbled something about keeping away from the old houses on the block. There was a hesitation there, almost like she was warning me. That night, just as I settled in, a thought entered my mind. What if none of these deliveries were random? I felt that first figure's gaze on me and couldn't shake it off. My heart started racing, and dread surrounded me as I recalled an old saying I once heard. What is given silently can be taken back. I turned off the lights and drew the curtains tight, hoping for sleep, but doubts gnawed at me. Then, I heard a knock at the door. I glanced toward it, my heart pounding. What if it was them? Who were they? I hesitated, fear coursing through my veins. Maybe I shouldn't have opened it. At that moment, I felt the air around me shift. I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, my hand hovering over the doorknob. The knocking persisted, rhythmic and unyielding. Was it just the wind, or was someone trying to get in? I gripped the knob and twisted it slowly. The door creaked open to reveal nothing but darkness. My instincts screamed at me to slam the door, but a flicker of curiosity pulled me. Just as I was about to close it, a shadow shifted near the edge of my porch light, catching my eye. I stepped outside, half leaning into shadows, hoping to catch a glimpse of whoever was lingering nearby. The street was eerily silent, almost too quiet. My heart raced, a dull thud in my ears. I felt exposed, like a moth drawn to an unknown flame. Should I call out? "Hello?" I said, my voice wavering slightly. There was no answer, only the rustling of leaves. I stepped back until I felt the doorframe against my back, and then something caught my eye. A movement at the edge of my yard. I turned to see the dark figure again, just beyond the reach of the porch light. That same figure from my first night. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. But the figure only shifted and began walking away, vanishing into the night. I hesitated, my fear pulling me back, but an overwhelming urge to follow spurred me onward. I stepped into the grass, the cool earth beneath my feet anchoring me. Why did I feel compelled to chase after them? Curiosity, fear, or something else? I crossed the threshold of my porch and nearly tripped over a rock. I steadied myself. The figure moved silently, their form distorting with every slight movement in the shadows. "Wait!" I called, but they didn't stop. They turned just enough for me to see the contours of a face, shrouded by the hoodie. My stomach sank. As I picked up speed, I noticed the figure approach one of the old houses at the end of the street, the one Mrs. Ellis had warned me about. It loomed there, wrapped in darkness, its windows like hollow eyes staring blankly at the night sky. My pulse quickened as I realized there had been lights flickering inside, which now seemed to be extinguished. I reached the gate, my breath coming fast. Should I go in? Should I turn back? A scared voice in my head told me to leave while I could, but the thought of unanswered questions held me captive. I took a step closer to the house when I heard a soft sound behind me. I whirled around to find a little girl standing there, her face partially obscured by a tangle of dark hair. She wore a faded dress, fraying at the edges. "I wouldn't go in there if I were you," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. Chill ran through me, and I suddenly felt trapped between two unsettling presences. "Who are you?" I asked, a knot forming in my throat. With a vacant look in her eyes, she pointed toward the old house and said, "They don't like visitors." Then everything went dark. I jolted awake, my heart racing. I was lying on the ground, surrounded by soft grass. The little girl was gone, and the air felt heavy and still. A shiver crept down my spine as I pushed myself up. Was it a dream? Had I fainted? I rubbed my eyes, trying to clear the fog from my mind. The old house still loomed nearby, its silhouette dominating the street. I stood slowly, glancing around. The street was empty, unsettling in its silence. No sign of the dark figure, the girl, or anything. Just as I contemplated heading back home, I heard a faint sound, like a gentle tap, tap, tapping. I followed the noise, my feet instinctively carrying me closer to the old house. I stepped onto the dilapidated porch and peered through the grime-laden window. Darkness filled the inside, but then, unexpectedly, I caught a glimpse of movement. Was that a figure? My heart raced again, a mix of fear and an unbearable sense of curiosity. I pressed my face closer to the glass until I could see better. The room appeared to be a kitchen, cluttered with old pots and dishes. In the corner stood an old table, and a dim light flickered over it. Just then, I saw a shadow pass behind the table, far too large to be the girl. My breath caught in my throat. I was about to turn back when the tapping grew louder. I looked to the side and spotted a delivery box sitting on the porch railing. It was strange. A late-night food delivery out here? Curious, I picked it up. The box was heavy, and the smell wafting from it was oddly enticing, despite the late hour. Just as I set it down, I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around to see a tall man stepping out of the shadows, his face obscured by a cap. "Did you get my order?" His voice was deep and gravelly. He stepped closer, and I sensed a tension in the air. "Order?" I stammered, unable to shake the feeling that I had just witnessed something I shouldn't have. "I didn't order anything." He stared at me, and for a moment I thought he would laugh. But his eyes narrowed, a flicker of something dark passing over his face. "You don't want to know. Trust me." The words rolled off his tongue as if they weighed more than my doubts. The hairs on my neck stood up. What did I not want to know? As I searched for the right thing to say, a sudden crash echoed from inside the house. The noise shook the walls, and the light in the kitchen flickered violently before going out. "Maybe you should leave now," the man said, backing away slowly, still watching me with those intense eyes. Before I could respond, he vanished into the shadows, leaving me alone on the porch. Panic surged anew as I fumbled with the delivery box. What was happening here? I glanced back toward the house and heard whispering, low and unintelligible. Then everything went dark again. I struggled to catch my breath as that suffocating darkness enveloped me. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I stood frozen on the porch, the heavy box still clutched in my hands. The whispering grew louder, a chorus of overlapping voices just beyond the door. I squinted into the blackness of the house, hoping for the light to return, but it didn't. My heart thudded in my chest. I knew I had to move, but the fear rooted me in place. Then I remembered the delivery box. I set it down cautiously and managed to pull the flaps open. Inside was an array of food, half-eaten sandwiches, an uneaten slice of cake, a few bags of chips. It was disturbing. I wondered who it was meant for. And then I noticed something else at the bottom of the box, a small, crumpled piece of paper. With trembling hands, I pulled it out. There, scribbled in shaky handwriting, were the words, "Help us. They know." My breath caught in my throat. Help who? And who were they? Glancing around, I felt the weight of eyes on me, judging, waiting for my next move. The whispering faded, replaced by a feeling of foreboding. I knew I should leave, but something compelled me to stay. I couldn't just walk away from a message like this. I remembered the shadows I saw in the kitchen and the strange man's warning. That unsettling combination of fear and curiosity nudged me closer to the door. I took a small step forward, drawn by an invisible thread. As I reached for the door, it creaked open slightly on its own, as if urging me inside. My heartbeat quickened, and I hesitated. The urge to flee battled with the overwhelming need to understand what was happening. Just then, from inside the house, I heard a loud clang that echoed through the halls, startling me back to my senses. I had hesitated too long. "What am I doing?" I muttered to myself. Just as I turned to leave, I saw a shadow dart by the window. My pulse raced as panic surged within me. It wasn't the girl. It wasn't the man. Someone, or something, was in the house, watching. I stepped back, feeling the weight of the delivery box digging into my palm, but I couldn't take my eyes away from the door. Another more insistent sound came from inside. A voice, but this time clear and desperate. "Please, you have to help us." With adrenaline flooding my veins, I took a step back toward the door. This time, I couldn't ignore it. I had to find out who needed help, even if it meant confronting whatever darkness was lurking within. That's when I saw it. A shadowy figure emerged at the edge of the darkened room, eyes glinting in the faint light. My breath caught again, and all my senses screamed at me to run. But I couldn't. Not now. I took a step, heart racing, my breath coming in short gasps as the figure shifted slightly. I expected it to lunge at me, but instead, it stayed still, almost waiting. The eyes glimmered with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "Please," the voice called again, softer this time. "We need you." "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, my voice barely a whisper. The room felt like it was closing in on me, and I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against my chest. "It's not safe out here," the figure replied, stepping forward into the dim light. It was a girl, no more than 14, with tangled hair and dirt smudged across her face. She looked terrified, and for a second, I felt a flicker of hope. "Are you all right?" I asked, instinctively wanting to help. "No, you don't understand," she said urgently. "They're coming. We have to get inside." Before I could respond, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching from behind me, amplified in the suffocating silence. My blood ran cold. I turned slightly, instincts alert, but the darkness swallowed everything beyond the porch. The girl brimmed with an intensity that shocked me. "Please, we don't have time!" She pointed toward the open door, her expression pleading. With an almost automatic response, I stepped inside, my heart pounding against my ribs. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of mildew and something sweetly rotten. As I crossed the threshold, the door creaked ominously behind me, and I was engulfed in complete darkness. The unsettling whispers returned, murmuring from the corners of the house. "Where do I go?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "This way," she replied, grabbing my wrist and pulling me through the dark, the chill of her hand sending a shiver down my spine. We stumbled into what felt like a narrow hallway, and I tried to match her hurried pace. "Who are they?" I breathed, the question spilling out before I could stop it. "They watch everything," she said, "and they know when we need help, but we can't let them find us." Just then, a loud crash came from behind us, causing both of us to freeze. I felt the girl's grip tighten around my wrist. My heart raced as the shadows around us shifted and stirred. The whispers crescendoed, urgent and frantic. "Run!" I shouted, breaking into a desperate sprint down the hall. I could hear the girl's quick steps behind me, but the darkness threatened to swallow all sound. Then, unexpectedly, We skidded to a halt in front of a door. "In here," she urged. I hesitated for a moment, glancing back. The noise behind us grew louder. "Now," she insisted, and I shoved the door open, pulling her inside just as something slammed against the outside. The room was dim but filled with a glaring light that momentarily blinded me. I blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of the chaotic disarray around us. But as my eyes adjusted, my blood ran cold again. Pictures covered the walls, grim snapshots of familiar faces, all taken in moments of terror, and at the center of it all was a table, littered with various food items, matching the ones in the delivery box, and underneath it. My stomach dropped as I noticed the very same crumpled note I had found earlier, now pinned down with something sharp. "Help us." I realized with dread that maybe the message wasn't just for me. It was a warning. I stumbled backward, my heart racing as the implications of the room settled over me like a dense fog. The girl stood close, her expression a mix of fear and determination. "We need to hide the note," she whispered urgently, trembling as she glanced toward the door. "What do you mean, hide it?" I shot back, my voice barely above a whisper. This is insane." "There's no time," she hissed. "If they find it, we're done for. They'll think we've told someone." I felt dizzy, caught between disbelief and the stark reality of our surroundings. This girl, this room, the pictures. They were all pieces of a puzzle I didn't understand. But fear pressed against me, loud and insistent. I nodded sharply, my mind racing as I scanned the mess around us. "Help me find something," I said, urgency driving my voice. I moved quickly, rifling through the scattered items on the table. There were spoons, bowls, and crumpled wrappers, but they offered no help. My hand brushed against the edge of the table, and I focused. In one swift motion, I grabbed the crumpled note and shoved it into my pocket. "What's next?" "Under the table," she replied, her wide eyes darting nervously. I crouched down, the bolted door looming behind me. Dirt and crumbs scattered as I slid underneath. To my shock, there was a small trap door, barely visible in the shadows, framed with fraying edges and dark stains. The thought that something might await me on the other side sent a jolt of fear through my veins. "Can it open?" I whispered. "I don't know," she said, staying by my side, her voice trembling. "But we can't stay here." The sound of footsteps grew louder outside the room, heavy and deliberate. I clenched my jaw, adrenaline coursing through me. I took a deep breath and yanked the trapdoor open. It creaked, the noise sharp against the ominous silence that followed. "What if they find us?" the girl whispered, clutching my arm. I turned to her, urgency sparking in my chest. "We don't have a choice. It's either this or they find us here." I swung my legs into the dark space below and felt around, desperately searching for a handhold. The girl followed close behind, and soon we were both crouched in the cramped darkness underneath the house, the stench of damp wood suffocating. The footsteps were now outside the door, followed by a voice that made my blood run cold. "They know you're in there. Give it back." The words cut through me like ice. The note. They knew. It was a warning. As I shuffled deeper into the darkness, I could feel the coldness creeping closer, encompassing us. The girl huddled beside me, her breath shaky against my ear. "Whatever happens," she murmured, "we can't let them get that note." Suddenly, a harsh light flooded through the trapdoor, swallowing the darkness. My heart sank. That's when I saw her. A shadowy figure descending the ladder, a wide grin stretching across her face. My breath caught in my throat. "Gotcha." I blinked at the figure as the light blinded me temporarily. It was a girl, not much older than us, and she had this unsettling confidence about her. I instinctively backed away, edging further into the cramped space beneath the floor. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper, my mouth dry. She chuckled, that grin still plastered on her face. "You really thought you could sneak away? I've been waiting for you to." "Waiting? For what?" I demanded, my pulse quickening. "You're curious, I see. Curious enough to dive into secrets that aren't yours." Her tone was mocking, but beneath it lay something darker. I stole a glance at the girl beside me. Her eyes mirrored my fear. We couldn't let this stranger take control. "We aren't here to play games," I said, trying to sound brave. "Just let us go. We don't want any trouble." "Oh, but you're already in trouble, aren't you?" she replied, tilting her head like a predator sizing up its prey. "And you hardly know what you're involved in." "What do you mean?" I asked, feeling as if I were teetering on the edge of an abyss. The girl shifted closer to me, whispering, "We need to back away from her. We can't trust her." As we shuffled further back into the shadows, I noticed that the trap door had been wedged open. Just then, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching from above, heavy and menacing. "Looks like your time is running out," the girl said smugly, retreating slightly. "You're not the only ones with secrets." "What's that supposed to mean?" I shouted, frustration boiling over. "Just remember this. Be careful who you try to expose," she said, her voice dropping to a chilling whisper as she took a step back, almost disappearing into the darkness. Suddenly, the trapdoor creaked more as someone from the outside pushed it wider. I grabbed the girl's arm, pulling her back with me into the dim coverage of shadows. "I'm going to count to 3, a voice above us said, deep and threatening. "If you don't hand over what you took, things are going to get messy." The girl beside me trembled. I could feel the fear radiating off her like heat. "What do we do?" she whispered, her eyes wide. "Stay quiet," I said through gritted teeth, panic bubbling beneath the surface. The only hope was to remain undetected. I glanced at the base of the trapdoor where the light seeped through, illuminating dust motes swirling in the air. 1. I motioned for the girl to move back further. 2. The trembling footsteps echoed, now much clearer. Then someone jumped into the space, silhouette blocking the light. 3. I held my breath. In that moment, the weight of secrets not only threatened to crush us, but also showed me a glimpse of how intricate and dangerous this world was. "Get them!" the voice boomed. But before I could react, darkness fell around me again, and everything turned colder. I realized with rising dread that our escape was only beginning. I barely had a moment to process what was happening before chaos erupted. The figure that landed inside the cramped space was tall and menacing, casting a long shadow that swallowed everything around it. I recoiled instinctively, pulling the girl behind me, shielded by desperate instincts. "Where are they?" the newcomer growled, eyes scanning the dim room. I couldn't tell if it was the same voice from above, but it had the same menacing tone. My heart raced, pounding loudly in my ears. I wanted to scream, to shout, to run, but I stayed frozen, as if any sudden movement would send this intruder into a frenzy. "They're right here," the girl who had initially confronted us shouted, stepping slightly forward with a confidence that felt misplaced. "But you have no idea what you're getting into." I blinked at her, questioning her sanity. This was not the time for bravado. "Move," the tall figure commanded, voice a growl that resonated deep within my bones. This sent a shock of realization through me. The earlier threat about handing something over. We must have taken something without realizing its importance. Panic surged as I pieced together the fragments of the past few days. Discussions overheard, odd deliveries, and that peculiar object I had taken without thinking. "Wait!" I whispered urgently to my companion. "What did we take?" She shook her head quickly, her eyes darting back to the intruder. "I don't know. I thought it was just a toy or something. It didn't seem like it was—" I cut her off. "We need to get out of here, now." But before we could react, the voice from the shadows spoke again, low and sinister. "You're in way over your heads. This isn't just a game for you to play. You've crossed a line." With that, the newcomer lunged at us. Instinct kicked in. I shoved the girl aside and leaped back, trying to evade the outstretched hands. "Run!" I shouted. And just as we turned to flee, another figure emerged from the shadows behind the first. Confusion clawed at me as I realized we were surrounded. More footsteps pounded against the floor above, and there was no turning back. I could feel the girl's hand slip into mine as we sprinted deeper into the darkness. We burst through a narrow gap behind a stack of crates, and to my surprise, we landed in what looked like a storage room filled with old furniture and boxes. Faded memories and forgotten things surrounded us, but there was no time to ponder what was hidden here. The shouts from the first two figures echoed behind us as I searched for another way out. My lungs burned from the exertion, and a quick glance back told me they were right on our heels. Then, I noticed a window high up on the far wall. It was small, but might be our only escape. "There!" I pointed, determination rising despite my fear. "Can you reach it?" the girl asked, panic creeping back into her voice. "Lift me," I urged, positioning myself beneath it. As she hoisted me up, I felt my heart drop when I caught a glimpse of the outside, dark streets illuminated by sparse streetlights. Just as I made it to the sill, I caught sight of a shadow lurking at the entrance of the room. "Come back!" it shouted, the urgency clear in its voice, but there was no way I was staying. I squeezed through the opening and tumbled into the night, taking a breath of the cool air. "Now you!" I urged her as I clutched the window frame, trying to pull her up. But the moment she got close, one of the figures from inside lunged and grabbed her ankle. "No!" I yelled, scrambling to pull her free, but with a desperate grip, she was yanked back. "Help!" she screamed as the darkness swallowed her again. I was left grasping at nothing, heart racing, dread washing over me. In that moment, I realized the danger was far from over. Not only had we gotten ourselves into something deep, but now I had lost her. I stepped back into the shadows, unwilling to leave without her. But then I heard a new noise, a soft rustle and laughter echoing from above. Someone else was watching. It was time to decide. Run and save myself, or go back into the mouth of the beast. My heart pounded in my chest as the laughter echoed through the storage room. It wasn't just the figures chasing us anymore. Something more sinister was lurking in the shadows. I glanced back at the window, half expecting the girl to reappear. But all I faced was darkness and unanswered questions. I was tempted to bolt. The cool night air beckoned me with every instinct screaming for flight, but I couldn't shake off the guilt of leaving her behind. I stepped deeper into the shadows, feeling my way against the wall, trying to quiet my breathing. "Where are you?" I muttered under my breath, half hoping she'd miraculously find a way out, but also fearing the worst. Suddenly, the laughter bubbled up again, this time coupled with a sharp voice. "Did you think you could escape so easily?" The words were dripping with amusement, taunting me. It sent a chill down my spine. I pressed myself flat against the wall, heart racing, half closed in on itself. I trained my eyes on the source of the sounds. A figure emerged, just as tall and menacing as the first. This one moved with a kind of grace, a predatory confidence that made my stomach twist. "Where's your friend?" they asked, tilting their head like a curious wolf. It felt like their gaze bore right into me, dissecting my thoughts, my fears. I don't know what you want." I stumbled over my words, trying to maintain some composure. "Just let her go." The figure stepped forward, the faint light illuminating their features. A smirk creased their lips, and I could see cold, calculating eyes glinting. "You don't even know what you have, do you?" "What are you talking about?" I demanded, though my voice quaked with uncertainty. "You took something valuable, something that belongs to us. And for that, you'll pay." Each word was deliberate, like they were enjoying my confusion. Panic bubbled within me. I clenched my fists. "I didn't mean to take anything. We thought it was just a toy." The figure let out a low chuckle. "Oh, it's far from just a toy. And trust me, others are interested in it too." They paused, surveying the room as if considering their next move. That's when I saw it, a glimmer of metal peeking from under a broken chair nearby. My heart raced again, and though I couldn't take my eyes off it, I had no idea how to retrieve it without attracting the figure's attention. It could be the key to understanding what was happening, or an even greater danger. Just then, the breathing behind me tightened. I turned to see the first figure had caught up, their presence creating an oppressive weight in the air. "Enough games," the second figure said, impatience leaking into their tone. "Run!" a voice suddenly echoed from above, like a whisper in the wind. I spun around to find a third figure, silhouetted against the light of the moon filtering through the window. They looked down at me with a strange mix of urgency and fear in their eyes. Instinctively, I took a step back. All of this was wrong. Two menacing figures closing in, a hidden object that seemed central to their pursuit, and now a mysterious person above me. The chaos was becoming unbearable. "Who are you?" I shouted, heart hammering against my ribs as the space between us shrank. "I'm here to help," they replied, with a tone that suggested I had no better choice than to trust them. "But you need to move now." In that moment, a decision had to be made. The danger was multiplying with every second. I had no idea if they were friend or foe, but I knew I couldn't stay trapped here any longer. The shadows were closing in, and I had to act quickly. Would I rush to the stranger's side, or keep searching for the hidden object, unsure of its true significance? Time was running out, and I had a terrifying decision to make. I made a decision. "Let's go!" I yelled, lunging toward the silhouetted figure above me. I didn't have time to analyze my instincts or the wisdom of following a stranger. The danger was palpable, and I could feel the room thrumming with tension. The shadowy figures closing in on us were definite threats. "Now!" the figure cried, urgency flaring in their voice. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I darted toward the light, not daring to look back. With every rushed footfall, the oppressive weight of dread loomed behind me. I could hear their heavy footsteps echoing in pursuit, urgency replacing the laughter. My pulse pounded in my ears as I reached up toward the stranger, who had moved to the edge of the window. "Grab my hand!" I shouted as I reached for them. They grasped my fingers in a vice-like grip, yanking me upward just as I felt the shadows shift beneath me. A deep rumble reverberated around us like a storm gathering strength. I barely caught a glimpse of the figures, their faces grotesque with dark anger as I was pulled through the window, just in time to escape their grasp. The air outside was a stark contrast to the musty room, cool and refreshing against my skin as we landed on the grass below. I fell hard, but quickly rolled over to get to my feet again. The figure was right beside me, urging me forward. "Run! We can't stop!" they said, dragging me away from the house, my heart racing quicker with every step. I didn't dare look back, fear coursing through me as I focused solely on putting distance between us and the darkened porch. As we sprinted into the night, I caught my breath and glanced at my companion. They were cloaked in dark clothing, their features still blurred in the darkness, but there was something reassuring in their presence. "Who are you?" I gasped, trying to keep pace as we navigated through the maze of trees lining the road. "I'm someone who knows what those things are capable of. I've been watching," they said. "You stepped into something very dangerous." "I didn't know," I replied, the weight of confusion and guilt settling heavy in my stomach. It all felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. "Neither did your friend," they said. "They've been taking people. Distant whispers on the wind tell me they're watching, waiting for the right moment." My heart sank. "We need to go back for her." "Back?" The figure shook their head. "That's what they want. But if we can get to town, there's hope." Something in their tone gripped me. It felt like a lifeline. I nodded, though doubt churned in my gut. "What about the note? The one I found?" "It's no simple note," they replied. "It's a beacon they can track. We need to find a way to destroy it before they do." As we ran towards the edge of the neighborhood, I felt something long and cold creep through the air around us. Shadows seemed to twist along the edges of the trees, the feelings of being watched pressing in against my skin. The laughter had transformed into a distant menace that hovered like a storm cloud. "Are we safe?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "For now," the figure said, though I could hear the uncertainty hidden behind their bravado. We sprinted down a narrow road nearing the open space of town, when I instinctively stopped. "Wait!" I shouted, pulling them back. "What if they follow?" "Then we fight," they said resolutely. "We find what we need and get others out." Air hitched in my throat at their words, the gravity of our situation crashing down like a tidal wave. So many questions still lingered. Who was this figure? What was really happening in this neighborhood? Were the stories of haunted houses fact or fiction? As we hid behind an old shed, breathless and wide-eyed, I tried to decipher the shadows dancing in the distance. Each flickering light felt like a warning, each rustle in the trees an omen of the shadows yet to be revealed. I thought of the girl, lost in that house. I thought of the darkness stirring beneath the surface of my new start, lurking behind closed doors. And just when I thought there might be safety in numbers, doubt flared hot in my chest. Was I running toward salvation, or deeper into a web of darkness? Before I could voice my fears, a faint sound reached us, almost melodic but distorted, a chime echoing to the night. A horrified realization washed over me, mixing with the adrenaline still pulsing through my veins. "It's calling them," I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach. The figure turned to me, their eyes sharp. "We need to move. Now." We turned to flee, but ahead lay only a flickering streetlight and shadows that stretched deep into the heart of the night. There were no answers, only more questions, and the sense that this was just the beginning. A dangerous game had started, and we were players in a world much bigger than ourselves. "Whatever happens, stay close," they whispered urgently as we pushed forward into the darkness, bracing ourselves against whatever lay ahead.